So, you want to be the next Mark Zuckerberg, Steve Jobs or Jack Ma? Well, you're in the right place, because today I'm going to teach you how to speak startup with 10 super useful business English words. All that is coming right up. Welcome to Eat, Sleep, Dream English. If you haven't met me, my name is Tom and I teach fresh, modern British English so that you can take your English to the next level and achieve your life goals. Today we're looking at startup English. Now, Silicon Valley, or the Valley as it's also known, is changing our world every single day, and that includes English. Just think about the companies that we use. For example, Google. Google has become a verb, to Google something. So if you don't know the answer to something, you could just say, oh, I'm going to Google it. I'm just going to Google it. And that means you're going to search for it online, whether you use Google or not. Think about Uber, the taxi service. We now say, I'm going to get an Uber. I'm going to get an Uber, not I'm going to get a taxi. An Uber is a taxi, but we don't say taxi anymore. We say an Uber. Unless, of course, you are getting a taxi, and then you would say taxi. We even use it as a verb. I'm going to Uber it tonight. I'm going to Uber it tonight. Like, I'm going to take an Uber, a taxi, to get home. Also think about Netflix. There's a common phrase, Netflix and chill. Netflix and chill. Now, you can Google the meaning of Netflix and chill. I'm not going to tell you. It's a bit rude. But it's become a phrase. These companies have become part of our everyday vocabulary, and that's why I love language, and that's why I love English, is because it's changing and evolving. And these phrases, if you said them 5 years ago, people would be like, what are you talking about? But now everybody knows. So today we're going to look at 10 words that are a part of startup world business English that you probably won't find in your business English textbooks or course books. All right, let's get to number one. Well, let's start with startup. A startup. It's a noun, and it's just a very young company. A company that is just beginning. Hence the word start. It's beginning. We often talk about a tech startup. A tech startup. Or a technology-focused company that is very new. An example sentence. I think he works for a tech startup. I think he works for a tech startup. So a tech startup. Now, tech, short for technology, we use in other ways. For example, fintech. Fintech is financial technologies. It's the way that we use technology to do things in banking and stuff like that. So tech is a word that we use a lot these days to mean technology. I work in tech, you could say. I work in tech. Now that's the industry of technology. So if you work in tech, maybe you work for one of these big companies like Google or Amazon or whatever. All right, so tech's a great word. Number two is entrepreneur. Entrepreneur. Now, an entrepreneur is a person that starts a company. So often an entrepreneur will start a startup. That makes sense. Now, this is a word that's come from French, and we probably say it a little bit differently. Our pronunciation, entrepreneur. Entrepreneur. So the stress is on the final syllable, entrepreneur. A lot of entrepreneurs move to Silicon Valley. A lot of entrepreneurs move to Silicon Valley. Number three is co-working space. Co-working space. Now, this is a shared workplace. So people from different companies are coming there to work. It's not just owned by one company. There are people from lots of different companies. And the idea is that maybe you rent a desk, or you could rent an office. So it could be temporary. You could work there for a couple of weeks, or you could be there permanently. All right, let's put that into an example sentence. There are so many co-working spaces now in London. There are so many co-working spaces now in London. Number four, angel investor. Angel investor. This is an individual that puts their money into a startup to help it grow and hopefully become successful. An angel investor. All right, let's put that into an example sentence. The startup is looking for angel investors to grow. The startup is looking for angel investors to grow. Number five is a business incubator, or it's also known as just an incubator. This is a facility that's provided to very new companies, very new startups. They rent space very cheaply to help the startup grow So they might give support in terms of ideas or management or money, and it's a kind of a cheap place for the startup to be based and then to grow over time. Because obviously starting a company is quite expensive, and rent is very expensive. So if you've got a place where the rent is cheap, where you've got good facilities, potentially good training facilities, then yeah, your company will probably grow faster and succeed. So an incubator is exactly that. It could be a house or just an office facility that's very cheap to help startups to grow quickly. If you've ever seen the TV series Silicon Valley, they are based in an incubator. So if you want to get to know about startups and tech business, but in a funny way, definitely watch Silicon Valley. Number 6, growth hacking. Growth hacking. Essentially, growth hacking is using experiments to quickly learn and change your business strategy or your marketing to grow the quickest way possible. So you're finding little tricks to improve the way you do almost everything. So whether it's through your marketing or your product development, you are learning as quickly as you can from your mistakes and improving your processes as quickly as you can. So it could be a noun, growth hacking, or it could be a verb as well, to growth hack. To growth hack. If you're an entrepreneur, you really need to learn how to growth hack. If you're an entrepreneur, you really need to know how to growth hack. Number 7 is pivot. Pivot. It's a verb, and it basically means if a company's original plan isn't working, it's not successful, they may change the direction of their business. Now, it doesn't mean they'll do something totally different, but it means they'll adapt or change it in some way. So, for example, Starbucks, they weren't originally a coffee shop. Originally, they were founded as a business that sold coffee beans and coffee makers. And then the owner, Howard Schultz, decided to pivot and start a chain of coffee shops. So they were going in one direction and then they slightly changed direction. That is to pivot. So they pivoted would be the past tense. Number 8, scalability. Scalability. Scalability is the ability for a company to grow and to be able to deal with increased customers or increased demand. So if something isn't scalable, which is the adjective, if something isn't scalable, you can't grow it bigger than it is already. Uber is a very scalable business because there's not just one person in the world that can drive a taxi, there's thousands of people, millions of people that could drive a taxi. So that's a very scalable business. So the word is scalability is the noun and scalable is the adjective. So Uber never had any problems with scalability. Uber never had any problems with scalability. Number 9, iteration. Iteration. This is a noun and it's the new version of something. So it could be a computer program, or it could be an English course, it could be anything really. So the idea is that it's a new version and you have changed something and hopefully improved the old version. So with each iteration, the idea is that your computer program improves, it gets better. A company might release a computer program and then they'll make several iterations, and by the 10th iteration, it's improved dramatically. It's so much better than the original version. So an iteration is a new version of something. And the final one, number 10, exit strategy. Exit strategy. Now, as you might be able to guess, exit means kind of to leave. And this is when the founder of the business, the entrepreneur that started it, makes a plan to leave the business. So maybe they sell a part of the business, or maybe they sell the whole business, but it's their plan to leave and hopefully make some money on the business. So an exit strategy. It's important for all entrepreneurs to have an exit strategy. It's important for all entrepreneurs to have an exit strategy. EC Dreamers, I'd love to know which of those words did you find most useful? Did you know all of them? Were some of them new to you? Let me know in the comments below. I'd particularly love to hear from those of you that are learning English for your jobs. so that you can improve your job, get a promotion, whatever it might be, or speak to colleagues or clients in English. I'd love to know how you use English in business. Put that in the comments below. Remember to check out my Instagram account, which is @EatSleepDreamEnglish. Also check out my Facebook page, and of course, hit the subscribe button and give this lesson a big thumbs up. I'm back every Tuesday and every Friday with new lessons, helping you take your English to the next level. Thanks so much for hanging out with me, guys. I hope you enjoyed that one. This is Tom, the Chief Dreamer, saying goodbye.